If you're a fan of stories where one act of human compassion changes the entire galaxy, then you're in the right place. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment about what you'd do if you came face to face with a predator that could tear you apart, and don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic sci-fi tales like this one. Now let's begin. The jungle was alive with whispers, every branch and shadow carrying the sound of death. Twin moons bled pale light across the canopy, silver mist clinging to the ground as if the world itself were hiding something. Elias Rourke crouched in the undergrowth, rifle slung across his back, eyes scanning the darkness. He had been a marine once, trained to fight in deserts and ruins, but this planet was nothing like Earth. Every step he took crunched too loudly, every breath felt like an invitation for something unseen to strike. He was supposed to be here for a week, mapping resources for a small colonial venture, but his transport had burned out in orbit, leaving him with nothing but survival gear and stubborn will. He'd been alone for 22 days, long enough for his beard to thicken, long enough for hunger to gnaw at the edge of his patience. Still, Elias moved carefully, not as prey but as a man who knew predators respected silence. The first roar tore through the jungle like a thunderclap. It wasn't the cry of any animal he'd logged in his scouting notes. This was deeper, a sound that made his bones rattle, as though the world itself mourned. He froze. Then came another sound, low guttural pain. Not a challenge but a wound's lament. Against instinct, Elias turned toward it. The clearing ahead looked like a battlefield. Trees shattered, ground churned, the air heavy with iron and musk. And in the center of it lay a creature that had haunted galactic myth. 20 feet from snout to tail, muscles like living steel, hide mottled with iridescent black and gray that shimmered under the moons. Eyes the color of molten amber glowed even half-lidded with exhaustion. Its breathing came in ragged heaves. Blood darkened the earth beneath it. The Void Fang. He'd heard the name in hushed stories, half warnings, half reverence. The apex predator of this sector. Supposedly unkillable, unstoppable, intelligent enough to outweed hunters. Elias had never believed in legends, but here it was, bleeding and beaten. He should have walked away. No, he should have run. Every survival instinct screamed that proximity meant death. Yet his boots carried him forward, slow and deliberate, until he stood close enough to smell the copper tang of blood and the musky stench of a predator's coat. The Void Fang's head lifted an inch, eyes narrowing at him. One growl, low as grinding stone, vibrated through the ground. Elias froze, hands raised, showing he had no weapon in play. "Easy," he whispered, as if words mattered to something that could crush him in a heartbeat. "I'm not here to finish you." The wound was brutal, scorch marks seared across its flank, likely from energy weapons. Someone had tried to bring the beast down. Elias's mind raced. No animal survived long with injuries like that. Infection, starvation, or rival predators would finish the job. Unless someone helped. He knelt, pack unzipped. His hands shook, not from fear, though fear licked his spine, but from the absurdity of what he was about to do. He pulled out a ration bar, unwrapped it, and set it gently on the ground between them. Then, with slow precision, he slid it closer. The Void Fang's nostrils flared. Its pupils narrowed, fixing on the small offering. Silence stretched until the forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a motion so swift Elias barely saw it, the beast's head darted down and snapped up the ration. The crunch of synthetic protein filled the night. Elias exhaled, only realizing now he had been holding the air in his lungs. "Guess you're hungry too," he muttered. The predator's gaze lingered on him, unblinking. Elias rummaged again, pulling another bar free. This time he didn't push it forward. He held it in his palm, arm extended, trembling against every instinct that told him this was madness. The Void Fang's growl deepened, throat rumbling. For a moment Elias thought he'd crossed the line, that his hand would vanish in a spray of blood. But the creature leaned in, jaws parting, teeth like white scythes. It took the ration with delicate precision, its tongue rough against his skin. Elias's chest tightened. Not in fear this time, but in something sharper, stranger, recognition. The beast lowered its head again, breathing slowing, eyes half closing. Not in aggression but in exhaustion. Elias shifted closer, careful as a priest tending an altar. From his kit he pulled a field dressing, torn fabric and water. He cleaned the wound as best he could, every movement cautious. The Void Fang's body tensed, but it did not strike. When Elias poured water over the scorched flesh, the beast hissed in pain, claws gouging trenches in the dirt, yet it let him continue. "You've been through hell," Elias whispered. "Don't worry. I know what that feels like." Time blurred. Minutes, maybe hours, passed as he worked. The night's noises faded from his awareness, replaced only by the sound of ragged breathing and the steady thud of his own heart. At last he sat back, sweat streaking his face. The dressing was crude, but it would hold. His rations were gone, but for the first time since his crash, Elias felt less alone. The Void Fang regarded him with those molten eyes. Then, without warning, it shifted its massive body. Elias tensed, until he realized it was lying down fully, head resting near him as if acknowledging his presence. "You're either going to kill me in my sleep," Elias muttered, easing onto the ground beside it, "or you're the best company I've had in weeks." The jungle sang on. Insects hummed, distant predators called, but none dared approach the clearing now. Elias rested his head against his pack, exhaustion dragging at him. He should have stayed alert, kept watch. Instead, the weight of 22 days alone lifted just enough for his eyes to close. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was the Void Fang's steady gaze, its breathing evening out like a thunderstorm passing into calm. When morning came, he expected teeth and claws. But dawn's first light found him still breathing, the great beast still beside him, and the bond of something impossible, something dangerous, had begun. The galaxy was never still. Even in the cold heart of the council chambers, where light spilled from towering crystal walls and shadows curved around 1,000 delegates, the air carried a constant hum of suspicion. Reports rippled across the hall like sparks thrown into dry grass. A human had been sighted on the wild moon of Kaler, not just surviving but living beside the predator that every species in the sector feared, the Void Fang. High Chancellor Terthus shifted in his coil, the glimmer of his scaled body catching the light. His eyes, narrow and slit-pupilled, betrayed no emotion, yet the chamber vibrated with unease as he read the report aloud. A solitary human was observed tending the beast's wounds. A human fed it. He let the words hang, his tongue flicking across the air. And the predator accepted. Shock rippled through the chamber. Delegates chittered, hissed, and clicked their mandibles in disbelief. One voice rose louder than the rest. Warlord Koresh, plated in black armor and towering over his peers, slammed a clawed fist into the table. "Lies. Trickery. The Void Fang cannot be tamed. If it feeds at the hand of a human, then that hand must be destroyed before it spreads corruption." A softer, scholarly tone countered him. Elder Valen, a fragile, feathered being with eyes like pools of silver, leaned forward. "Or perhaps it is not corruption but revelation. The Void Fang has resisted capture, resisted control, resisted extinction. Yet it lingers at the side of one man. This is not mere survival. It is choice." The words were recorded, dissected, transmitted. Across systems, whispers spread. Humans, the unremarkable species from a backwater world, had done what empires failed to do for centuries. They had made the apex kneel, or worse, befriend. On Kaler, Elias woke to the damp bite of morning mist. His muscles ached, but he was alive. That alone felt miraculous. He rolled onto his side, eyes locking with the amber gaze beside him. The Void Fang had not moved much in the night, though its chest rose steadier, its breaths less ragged. "Guess we both made it," Elias muttered, sitting up. He touched the crude bandage, relieved to see it had held. The beast watched him without aggression, its pupils contracting slightly in the light. Elias felt a strange calm under that gaze, as though he were less an intruder and more an accepted presence. For the first time since the crash, he allowed himself to speak openly, his voice cracking in the silence. "I don't know if you can understand me. But if you can, thanks. For not eating me." He scavenged through his pack, grimacing at the emptiness. Only 2 ration bars left. Survival dictated he stretched them. Humanity whispered he split them. He broke one in half and set the larger piece before the predator. The Void Fang inhaled, devoured, then lifted its head as though expecting more. Elias chuckled, though the sound carried fatigue. "Yeah, that's about what I thought. You're hungrier than I am." The bond grew quietly, unspoken yet undeniable. Where Elias walked, the predator limped after. When he rested, it lay near, eyes alert, body tense to guard. The jungle, once alive with stalking threats, seemed to bow to the presence of the wounded titan. Predators that would have torn Elias apart now slunk away, unwilling to test the alliance. Still, Elias could not shake the feeling of being watched. At night, when he sat by the embers of a small fire, he noticed faint glints in the treetops, metallic glimmers where no eyes should shine. He told himself it was exhaustion, until one evening the truth revealed itself. The drone was small, insect-like, its body bristling with sensors, wings humming with an artificial buzz. It hovered above the clearing, recording every detail. Elias rose to his feet, rifle leveled, but the machine darted higher, out of reach, its lens fixed on him and the Void Fang. "Damn," Elias muttered. "So the galaxy's watching." The predator's growl confirmed it sensed the intruder too. Elias fired once, the shot snapping through the night, but the drone twisted, vanished into the canopy and was gone. The damage was done. Proof had been captured, and proof traveled faster than rumor. That very moment in the council chambers, the feed played in grainy clarity. A human, dirty and ragged, breaking food and offering it to the void fang. The predator eating not with violence but patience. The man touching its wounds, binding them. The creature lying beside him as though they were kin. Gasps erupted from the delegates. Some cursed, others trembled. Koresh roared above them all, his mandibles clicking with fury. This is abomination. If a human can twist the mind of the void fang, what else can they corrupt? Will they turn our war beasts, our guardians, our very armies? Shall we wait until every predator bends knee to them? Chancellor Titterwss did not answer immediately. His tongue flickered, reading the air. Then slowly he spoke. We cannot deny what we see. The human has done the impossible. This cannot be ignored. Elder Valen leaned forward, feathers quivering with excitement. It is not corruption. It is connection. Humanity has long been underestimated. Perhaps they see what we refuse to see. That the void fang does not exist as enemy but as partner. The chamber divided instantly, lines of fear and fascination drawn. Some demanded the human's execution, others proposed study, still others whispered of opportunity. On Kaler, Elias sat beside his unlikely companion, staring into the fire. He spoke not to the council or to history, but to the only presence that had not abandoned him. You need a name, he murmured. Can't keep calling you monster, can I? The beast lifted its head, watching him. Elias thought of earth myths, of creatures too strong to chain, too wild to break. Ashar, he said finally. The word tasted solid on his tongue. Ashar. That's you. The void fang, Ashar, blinked slowly as if acknowledging the sound. Elias smiled faintly, leaning back against the roots of a great tree. He felt the weight of the galaxy bearing down, though he couldn't see it. He only knew that whatever he had begun here, it was no longer his alone to carry. Beyond the jungle, ships stirred, hunters prepared, and the galaxy's eyes fixed on a man and a beast who had chosen not to kill each other. The night thickened, stars wheeling silently above, and Elias felt the edge of inevitability pressing closer. Trouble was coming. He could sense it like the storm smell in the air. And when it came, neither he nor Ashar would face it as they had before. The jungle shivered under the first streaks of Kaler's dawn, but Elias felt no warmth. His instincts hummed through him like electricity, every hair on his arms bristling. The drone had been only a warning. The council would not let this stand. They had already sent hunters, creatures bred for the hunt, for killing, for breaking anything that dared defy them. He crouched beside Ashar, whose massive frame radiated a quiet intensity. The predator's scars were healing, but the muscles along its flanks tensed at every distant rustle. Elias had learned the subtle language of the beast. A flick of its tail, a shift in stance, a growl curled through the air, signals sharper than any alarm. They'll come for us, he murmured. And they won't be gentle. Ashar blinked slowly, acknowledging the threat, then shifted closer, brushing its head against Elias' shoulder. A gesture of trust. Elias placed a hand on its snout, feeling the warmth of life against claws that could rend stone. We'll do it together, he said, and the words felt more like a promise than reassurance. The first sign arrived with a subtle crack of twigs, too deliberate to be natural. Elias froze, listening. A squad of hunters emerged from the treeline, bodies encased in dark alloy armor, helmets reflecting the jungle light. Their weapons, sleek and deadly, hummed with energy. Each step was measured, each movement rehearsed. They were not here for reconnaissance, they were here to kill. Elias rose slowly, letting Ashar step into the open first. The predator loomed like a mountain, tail lashing, claws digging shallow trenches. The hunters hesitated, scanning the clearing. Legends did not prepare them for what they saw now. The apex predator, scarred and bleeding, standing calmly beside a human, neither cowering nor attacking. Target acquired, one of the hunters hissed, voice modulating through its helmet. They spread in formation, circling. Elias' mind raced. He had no reinforcements, no artillery, no air support. Only his wits and the creature beside him. He thought of all the drills, all the survival training drilled into him during Earth's military programs. Ambush, traps, guerrilla tactics. Every resource now had a single purpose: survival. Ashar growled, low and resonant, a sound that seemed to vibrate the ground itself. Elias nodded, crouching behind a fallen log, hand extended to signal the predator. The beast understood. Without hesitation, it slinked along the edge of the clearing, shadows swallowing its massive frame, a silent harbinger of violence. The first hunter fired. A pulse of plasma lanced the air where Elias had been seconds before. Ashar leapt, teeth bared, massive claws slicing through metal. The shot missed, but the hunter screamed as the predator's tail slammed into him, sending him sprawling into the undergrowth. Elias fired in the confusion, careful to aim where he could disable rather than kill. This was Ashar's fight, his turn to stay alive. The hunters recovered quickly, moving as units, trained killers not easily stopped by one predator. But Ashar was not just an apex predator. It was smart, intuitive, responding to Elias' silent gestures, anticipating angles the hunters had not calculated. One of the hunters lunged forward, trying to flank Elias. Ashar's jaws snapped in an arc of lethal precision, catching the hunter's leg mid-step, and tossing him into a tree with a sickening crunch. Elias ducked behind a stump, heart hammering, mind calculating next moves. They were faster than he was, but he knew the terrain better and Ashar knew him better. Together they were unpredictable. Hours blurred. The hunters adapted, but so did Elias. He rigged tripwires with jagged metal and electromagnetic snares, slowing their approach. Ashar covered him, silent and terrifying, a living wall of muscle and teeth. Every hunter who stepped wrong was met with force they had never trained to counter. The jungle itself became an ally, and Elias felt a surge of pride in his species' resilience. Amid the chaos, Elias caught a glimpse of one hunter transmitting data. He realized the council would see this battle unfold in real time. The thought sent a chill down his spine. If they survived, the galaxy would know the truth. A human could not only survive the Voidfang but command its loyalty. That alone was dangerous, revolutionary, unthinkable. Another hunter aimed a long-range pulse cannon. Elias dove behind a rock as energy cut through the canopy, scorching trees and spraying debris. Ashar roared, a sound that rattled bones, and surged forward in a terrifying blur, dodging blasts with a combination of brute strength and uncanny reflexes. Elias fired his own weapon, hitting a nearby rock to cause a cascade that buried one of the hunters. By midday the field was littered with broken armor, scorched earth and the groans of the wounded. Elias and Ashar moved with quiet precision, side by side. Elias realized with a grim thrill that the predator trusted him implicitly, and he trusted it in return. It was more than survival now, it was partnership. A bond no council decree could sever. One hunter, the apparent leader, broke from the group, charging Elias with a sleek energy blade. Elias met him halfway, rifle raised, but Ashar anticipated the strike. With a speed that defied its size, it leapt between them, jaws snapping and claws raking. The hunter fell, weapon discarded, body sprawled and broken. Elias exhaled sharply, realizing the gravity of what they had accomplished. The clearing fell silent, the jungle holding its breath once again. Ashar stood over the last downed hunter, chest heaving, eyes glowing with calculated restraint. Elias approached cautiously, raising his hands. "Enough," he said. "They're done." Ashar lowered its head slowly, as if bowing to the human's judgment. Elias reached out, brushing the coarse fur along its jaw. "You've saved my life," he said. "I owe you more than I can count. But we're not safe yet." He scanned the perimeter. The surviving hunters had fled, but not without transmitting. The council would know every detail, every tactic, every moment of their fight. This was not an end. It was the beginning of something far larger, something that would ripple across the galaxy in ways Elias could not yet imagine. As he knelt beside Ashar, tending to a fresh scrape along its flank, he allowed himself a fleeting smile. They had survived against impossible odds, relying only on wits, instinct, and the bond forged in fire and blood. And yet, the knowledge settled heavy on his chest. The galaxy had seen, and it would not forgive or forget. Elias looked into Ashar's molten eyes, a silent promise passing between them. Whatever came next, hunters, armies, the council itself, they would face it together. Not as man and beast, but as partners, as equals, as something the galaxy had never seen before. The wind shifted, carrying distant echoes of engines and alarms. Elias straightened, feeling the weight of inevitability pressing in. He knew their actions here would not remain a secret. Ashar shifted beside him, coiled like a spring, muscles twitching in anticipation. They were ready. And somewhere in the galaxy, unseen eyes recorded, analyzed, and transmitted the undeniable truth. A human had faced the apex predator, and not only had he survived, he had commanded its loyalty. As the jungle settled into an uneasy silence, Elias whispered, more to himself than to Ashar, "They'll be back. But when they do, they'll see what we can do." The predator's growl rumbled in agreement, low and steady, a vibration that seemed to carry through the ground itself. They had won the day, but the war had only begun. By the time Elias and Ashar returned to the edge of the jungle, the sun hung low over Kalar, painting the sky in bruised purples and fiery oranges. The adrenaline of survival had faded, replaced by the creeping weight of inevitability. The hunters were gone, but their transmissions had already traveled faster than either could. The Council, the galaxy's most powerful observers, now knew exactly what had happened. In the high chambers, debate raged like a storm. Hollow images of Elias and the Voidfang flickered across every crystal panel, loops replaying the impossible alliance. Delegates leaned forward, hissing, chittering, gesturing in outrage and awe. Warlord Koresh slammed his gauntlet fist against the crystal table. This human defies every law of nature. He walks beside the predator, unafraid, controlling it. Such audacity cannot stand. Elder Valen's feathers trembled with excitement. Control? No, Koresh. Observe carefully. The Void Fang acts willingly. There is no coercion. This is not control, it is partnership. Humanity has achieved what no other species could even dream of. Chancellor Tyrosus regarded them all with cold calculation. We are at a crossroads. This human does not merely survive the predator. He has redefined what it means to interact with life itself. To kill him now may seem logical, but it risks underestimating the broader consequences. A species capable of this alliance cannot be ignored. Across sectors, whispers grew into headlines. Hollow feeds showed the man feeding, tending, speaking softly to the Void Fang. Some called it heresy, others genius. Humans had long been dismissed as weak, unremarkable, expendable. Now, a single individual threatened to undo centuries of galactic prejudice. Back on Kaler, Elias crouched beside Ashar, scanning the treeline for any signs of the hunter's return. His mind wandered, not to fear but to the implications of their actions. The galaxy had seen him, the beast had been observed, and now nothing would remain the same. He adjusted the crude bandage along Ashar's flank and reached out to scratch behind its ear, the motion instinctive and intimate. They'll be talking about us for a long time, he murmured. Ashar's low rumble echoed agreement. The predator's presence was grounding, a reminder that for every alien system that debated them, here was reality. A man and a predator, alive, undefeated, unbowed. The first ships arrived at Kaler's orbit before dusk. Sleek, angular crafts bearing the Council's insignia dropped into the upper atmosphere. Elias squinted, hand shading his eyes. The ships moved in formation, scanning the surface, sending pulses of detection across the terrain. They were not here to negotiate. They were here to observe, to measure, to decide. And they would decide quickly. Elias had little choice. He could not flee, could not hide indefinitely. Ashar shifted beside him, muscles coiled like steel springs as if sensing the tension in the air. Elias knew that the predator's patience had limits, but so did their pursuers. He needed a strategy and fast. At the council, tensions escalated. Delegates were divided. Some saw the human as a threat that must be eradicated. Others saw opportunity, admiration, even fear. He has tamed the impossible, one voice hissed. If humans can bond with apex predators, what else are they capable of? Koresh slammed a claw against the crystal again, almost shattering it. They will weaponize the Void Fang. Every species' fear will be turned against us. Do we allow one human to hold such power over our futures? Valen countered, voice quivering with exhilaration. Or perhaps we have underestimated what cooperation can achieve. Perhaps this is not domination but understanding. Humanity sees life as connection, not conquest. We may yet learn from them. Meanwhile, Elias noticed movement along the horizon. Smaller skimmers and drones scanned the forest edge, but Ashar remained calm beside him. The predator had sensed threat before he even did, a living radar of intuition and instinct. Together, they moved silently, avoiding detection, though Elias knew their presence could not remain a secret. The hours passed. The sun dipped below Kaler's twin moons and the shadows lengthened. Elias allowed himself a rare moment to reflect. He remembered Earth, dusty streets and quiet nights, and the disbelief he would have met if he had described this moment. Now, under alien moons, beside the galaxy's deadliest predator, he had no need for validation. Every choice, every risk, every ration bar shared had led them here. A crackle of sound drew his attention. A small craft descended cautiously, sensors scanning, lights cutting through the forest. Elias raised a hand, signaling Ashar to remain still. The predator's amber eyes glowed faintly, tail twitching, a warning more subtle than any alarm. The craft's door opened, revealing a figure in polished armor, humanoid yet unmistakably alien. Its voice carried over the comlink, clear and commanding. Human Elias Rourke, you are hereby requested to present yourself for evaluation before the Galactic Council. Your cooperation is not optional. Elias exhaled. Guess the party's starting, he muttered. Ashar growled softly, acknowledging the words. Together they approached the craft, each step measured, deliberate. Elias's hand rested lightly on the predator's flank. The council would see what they had witnessed firsthand. The human, unarmed yet unafraid, walking beside the apex predator that had once been untouchable. The ride to the council chambers was tense. Ashar lay restrained only by choice, not chains, while Elias studied the alien envoy. The envoy's eyes flicked nervously to the predator, then back to him. Do not underestimate the council, it warned. They are divided. Some will seek your death. Elias smiled faintly. I don't need them to understand me, he said quietly. They just need to see. In the chambers the reaction was immediate. Delegates gasped, hissed, even recoiled at the sight of Ashar. For centuries, myths had grown about the predator, tales of its invincibility and fury. Now they saw it calm, obedient to no one but the human at its side. Koresh's mandibles clicked with rage. This is unacceptable. Do you see what they have done? This is not control. This is heresy. Elder Valen leaned forward, feathers bristling with excitement. No, Koresh. Observe carefully. This is mastery not of force but of trust. The human has bonded with the Void Fang, and that bond is unbreakable. We have underestimated humanity for too long. The council debated, but the presence of Ashar beside Elias silenced many arguments. No weapon would touch him here. The predator alone made it impossible to act rashly. Elias felt the weight of eyes, judgment, awe, and fear pressing upon him, but he stood firm. When a delegation whispered about disarming the predator, Elias placed a steady hand on its neck. Ashar shifted slightly, a low rumble vibrating through the floor. The message was unmistakable. Any attempt at force would be met with immediate consequence. Elias finally spoke, voice calm, measured. You wanted to see me. You've seen me. And now you understand that threats are no longer abstract. You may debate, strategize, and plan, but know this: I do not seek to harm. I seek only to survive. And Ashar will survive with me. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. Delegates glanced at one another, reassessing centuries of prejudice, assumptions, and fear. The human had survived. The predator had survived. And together they had challenged the very perception of what humanity could achieve. Outside the chamber the galaxy would continue to buzz. News feeds, transmissions, debates across planets. Some would call Elias reckless, others visionary. Some would see danger, others would see hope. Yet in this moment, inside this chamber, the undeniable truth stood. A man and a predator, side by side, had shocked the entire galaxy. Elias crouched beside Ashar after the council adjourned, brushing debris from the predator's flank. We did it, he murmured softly. But this is only the beginning. They'll come again, bigger, smarter. And next time we need to be ready. Ashar rumbled low in agreement, eyes glowing softly in the chamber's fading light. Together they left the platform, the shadows of the council looming behind them. They had survived the hunters, and now they had survived the galaxy's judgment. But a larger storm approached, one that would test not only their bond but the very future of humanity's place among the stars. And as they disappeared into the corridor, Elias could not help but smile faintly. Whatever came next, he and Ashar would face it together, and the galaxy would never forget the day a human fed a wounded apex predator. The council chambers were silent, an almost oppressive hush settling over the delegates as Elias Rourke stepped into the central dais. Ashar loomed beside him, a shadow of muscle and power, tail coiled, claws scraping faintly against the polished floor. Where centuries of fear had filled the room, now there was awe, an apex predator obedient only to a human, a combination that no mind within the galaxy had ever imagined. Elias's boots clicked against the crystal floor, deliberate, calm, and measured. He felt the weight of every eye upon him, and yet he stood taller than fear. Years of survival, of training, of knowing when to fight and when to wait, had led to this moment. He had faced hunters, storms, isolation, and now he faced the ultimate judgment of the galaxy itself. High Chancellor Tyros's eyes glinted, cold and analytical. Human Elias Rourke, he began, voice resonating through the chamber, you have appeared where no human should tread, touched that which no species may command, and defied all expectation. You are here to explain your actions, yet the evidence before us leaves little doubt. Koresh's mandibles clicked with fury, his voice rising like a storm. You flaunt the laws of nature. You sit beside a predator that should have killed you. This is not alliance. This is blasphemy. You will answer for it with your life. Elias did not flinch. He shifted his gaze to Ashar, feeling the steady heat, the power beneath his hand, the silent reassurance that they were together in this. I do not deny what I have done, he said evenly. I fed a wounded predator. I tended its injuries. I did not conquer it and I did not force it to serve me. I simply treated it as life, not as a tool, not as a weapon, not as prey. A ripple of murmurs ran through the chamber. Delegates whispered to one another, struggling to reconcile centuries of assumption with this undeniable reality. Ashar's amber eyes swept over them, unflinching, a silent assertion of loyalty and intelligence that needed no translation. Koresh bared his teeth, the sound a threat in itself. Do you think your words change the laws of the galaxy? That your compassion excuses this Anomaly? Elias stepped closer, calm, unwavering. It's not law I'm redefining. It's understanding. You've feared the predator for centuries. I have seen it suffer, seen it fight to survive, and I chose not to kill, not to dominate, but to help. Ashar could have destroyed me. And yet it did not. That is not weakness. That is choice. And that choice is beyond what your fear can comprehend. For a moment, silence reigned, the weight of his words pressing on the chamber. Then, a subtle movement. Ashar shifted, standing fully, tail lashing once, a controlled display of strength that reminded every delegate of the raw power coiled beside the human. It was a living argument, a demonstration of respect and trust rather than force. Elder Valen stepped forward, feathers bristling with excitement. This is extraordinary. Humanity has not only survived, it has demonstrated a principle we have long overlooked. Compassion, patience, understanding, they are forces as powerful as any weapon. Elias Rourke has achieved a bond that no army, no empire, no council decree could dictate. Cherwes inclined his head slowly, processing, calculating. Perhaps we have underestimated your species. Perhaps we have interpreted power too narrowly. Still, a single human commanding an apex predator is not a trivial matter. The implications are significant. Koresh's rage burned, but he paused, recognizing that the moment had shifted. Any aggression now, any attempt to strike Elias or Ashar, would trigger consequences no delegation could contain. The predator's patience, infinite in the forest, had boundaries within the chamber. Elias's calm, coupled with Ashar's presence, was the perfect balance of intimidation and diplomacy. Elias's voice softened, carrying conviction beyond fear. I am not here to threaten your galaxy. I am here to survive. Ashar is not a weapon. I am not a conqueror. But we are here and we exist. And if survival, trust, and respect are crimes in your eyes, then perhaps it is not humanity that needs judgment but fear itself. A low rumble passed through Ashar, resonant and deliberate. Every delegate felt it beneath their feet, in their bones. It was not a threat. It was a statement. They had power, yes, but it was tempered with restraint, with choice. Humanity had been underestimated, and now that truth could not be ignored. Then unexpectedly the chamber doors opened. A figure stepped forward, Commander Jace Arden, Elias's former squadmate, his armor gleaming, his stance calm yet authoritative. He moved to Elias's side, voice firm, carrying the weight of reason. High Council, he said, you are judging a man who has survived where many would fail, who has shown that trust and partnership can achieve what fear and aggression cannot. Elias Rourke did not subvert the galaxy. He demonstrated the potential of humanity. If you seek threat, you will find none here, only possibility. The murmurs grew louder, some in awe, some in disbelief. Koresh hissed in frustration, but even he felt the tide turning. Cherwes's eyes flickered, calculating the broader consequences, weighing fear against strategy. Elias stepped forward, gaze unwavering. I have nothing to ask for, nothing to beg for. I stand here, human, alive, and Ashar stands with me. What we have done cannot be undone. The galaxy will see that one man, choosing life and respect over destruction, can change more than any weapon, any fleet, any decree. The chamber was silent again, but the energy had shifted. The delegates saw the truth in the predator's calm presence, the human's unwavering stance, and the fragile, revolutionary possibility that such a bond represented. Koresh finally spoke, voice tight, restrained. We cannot approve this, easily. But to strike now would be folly. The risk is unacceptable. Valen's feathers quivered with triumph. Then let this be recorded. A human has shown that courage and compassion are forces that the galaxy cannot ignore. That is the legacy of Elias Rourke. The decision, though tenuous, was made. Recognition, not execution. Observation, not eradication. Humanity had survived judgment, and the galaxy had glimpsed a new possibility, a species capable of redefining what it meant to interact with life itself. Elias knelt briefly beside Ashar, placing a hand on its snout. We did it, he whispered. The predator's rumble vibrated beneath his palm, an acknowledgement, a promise. Together they had survived the hunters, endured the council's scrutiny, and changed perceptions that had endured for centuries. As the chamber emptied, whispers followed them. Some with fear, some with curiosity, others with a spark of admiration. The galaxy would not forget this day, the day a human fed a wounded apex predator, tended to its wounds and walked beside it as an equal. The day that humanity's courage, ingenuity, and compassion had proven its place among the stars. Elias rose, eyes scanning the vast expanse beyond the chamber's crystal walls. Ashar's shadow stretched beside him, massive and imposing, yet calm and controlled. Together they stepped forward, leaving behind the gaze of the galaxy, yet carrying with them the undeniable truth. A human and a predator, bound by trust and respect, could face any challenge, endure any threat, and shape the destiny of worlds. Outside, the stars shimmered, indifferent yet magnificent. But for Elias and Ashar, the universe felt different now. Infinite, yes, but full of possibility. And somewhere deep within that vast expanse, the echoes of their alliance would ripple, a reminder that courage and compassion were more formidable than any fear, more enduring than any empire, and more profound than any legend. Elias looked at Ashar, amber eyes meeting molten amber, and smiled. "We've just begun," he said. The predator rumbled, a deep, resonant vibration that spoke of readiness, loyalty, and unbreakable partnership. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, and it would never be the same.